Stephanie Boozer with CGC HQ. Welcome to today's Connect webinar with Liquidware. It is so fitting. I'm not sure how many of you saw the announcement that went out yesterday about the changes that are coming with CGC. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat for you. Just want to say, let me change my slide here. A lot of windows open on my screen today. First off, I have to thank Liquidware. Liquidware has been with us from day one. I think Liquidware and Nutanix are the only two sponsors that have been with us the entire ride. So for the whole 8 years. So thank you so much, Liquidware. Like, you have been with us through so much, and Jason, you've done a lot of webinars with me, and also stepped up and supported our Women in Tech group. We had a fantastic session not that long ago with Jenna Hicks from Liquidware and Esther Bartel. I don't even want to talk about it. It'll make me cry, but thank you so much just to Liquidware, to everything you've done for us. We really, really appreciate it.
We're glad to always support it. I can remember, I believe, where I was. I don't remember which city it was, but I think it was at a Synergy. And there was a Tesla involved somewhere on display. I remember that. It's like, really, somebody's really going to do CUGC right. And it has been. It's been a great thing that Engage has done. The work Stephanie's done, the team's done, and we were happy to sign up right away and be one of those inaugural sponsors. And we're happy to be doing this today, and we're happy to remain involved in the Citrix community as we see what's next.
Well, thank you. So again, I think it's perfect. It's fitting. It's perfect that you started with us, and this is our last Connect webinar, and it's with you. So that's perfect. Okay, onward and upward, right? So we are recording today's session. I'll send out a link to that recording tomorrow. It'll come in email. So be on the lookout for that. Please type in your questions as we go. We have a Q&A panel and a chat panel. So feel free to have little conversations in the chat, ask your questions in the Q&A, and we'll keep an eye on both of those. And I'm going to introduce our presenters here. We have Jason E. Smith. He is VP Product Marketing and Alliances at Liquidware. Thank you, Jason, for being here today.
Thank you.
And Johnny Ma is a Senior Solutions Architect. He's a CTA, and he's one of our Colorado CUGC leaders. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
And keeping an eye on all of your awesome questions today is Jake Walsh. He's a Senior Solution Architect. He's also a CTA. He joins us from the UK. Thank you, Jake, for being on this webinar with us today.
Thanks, Stephanie. Great to be here.
All right. I am going to turn things over to Jason and Johnny. Jake's going to watch the Q&A and help facilitate that discussion. So let me stop sharing my screen, and there you go. You guys are ready to go.
Thanks, Stephanie. Let me get to the right slide deck and had too many open. We're going to do a What's New webinar next week. We didn't want to see that one today, did we? So we are, we're happy to be doing this one about the perfect solution for Citrix and it's Liquidware FlexApp. And it's great for Citrix virtual apps and desktops. It's also great for Citrix DAS. And we'll get into more about why it is the perfect solution, we believe, and acknowledge the place that many customers have found that Citrix app layering fits for them when it fits for them, and the place that MSIX from Microsoft is a fit and how it fits for many, but where FlexApp can handle more use cases than just about any other technology that's out there. And we've led this market for many years. We like, when we're telling people about Liquidware, we do show one slide to show you all the things that we do. We probably touch more parts of the digital employee experience than any other vendor out there, solution vendor out there. We can help you manage digital employee experience with our user environment management and it can go beyond some of the use cases of Citrix WIM and Citrix Profile Manager. It can actually run with Citrix Profile Manager, and the fact that it can back up those hives, so when you reset those, if they become corrupt, you can put them back into place. And it has one single pane of glass to where you can manage all your user environment and profiles, and increasingly application settings from one. So that's how we help manage DEX. How we help control DEX is with our new solution called Command Control, and it is real-time remediation. So it does monitoring, but it also in real time, but it can also in real time, you can kill processes that may be causing issues for users and use it for really a one-to-one help desk support. You can even go back in time and see what was happening an hour ago. So if the problem was happening with your user before they went to lunch or something like that, it's easy to just drag back in time to something we've dubbed DVR. It's SaaS first, so there's nothing to set up. You put an agent on the endpoint of any Windows desktop, and then you can troubleshoot them and remediate them. And it has integrated functionality with AI already in it. So when you hover over a process, it will tell you highly likely, within some degree of certainty, what that process is. So you don't have to go out there and look that up through the web. It brings all that in, and then we're going to have more AI functionality as it goes along. So it's leading in many areas. You hadn't heard of those features from anyone else doing real-time remediation so much. So give it a look. There's a 5-user for free trial out there that you can grab and you can use for your family and friends, and you can support your own desktops with it. So that's 5. And there's no limits other than the seat count on that one. And we'd love to talk to you about your enterprise and how we can provide real-time remediation for that. A lot of people know us for Stratosphere UX, and that's the digital experience monitoring and diagnostic solution we've done. Many of you may have assessed for your desktops when you grow and scale, or perhaps you're using it to monitor and diagnose things as you're scaling, or to troubleshoot desktops at a very granular level. If there's a metric that can be seen, Stratosphere sees it. It knows what goes bump in the night, and it can diagnose login processes, for example. So it does a complete login breakdown, so you can see and point straight to the culprit that may be hanging up your logins. And you can do a free trial of it too. It's a very powerful trial. So give it a try, see if it solves a need for you, some little pain point for you, but it's something that you're going to want in there. And then today we're going to spend our time talking about our application portability. We attach applications. Note that I've hesitated on even using the word layering, but people talk about application layering product. We really attach applications, and we do it through an innovative filter driver. It makes them look like they're installed, but they're not. They're in a VHDX container, and that VHDX container can even go offline if you're talking about running these on laptops. In a Citrix environment, that means that it's usually on a shared network path, and it's not a base image. And that's the beauty of attaching an application, is that you really start to streamline the way that you manage your images, and that is very helpful in a Citrix environment. All of our solutions work across any way you deliver Windows, as you see there at the bottom: virtual, physical, cloud, Citrix DAS, and CVAD. And just to go back to what are we solving here? And we're solving the image management challenge that has long plagued the industry, and that is, you get Windows rot after a long time of installing, uninstalling apps, and then if you don't do that, you're maintaining many images just for a departmental basis usually, and that's outlined at the top. The traditional model there, you may have many dozens sometimes base images in your Citrix environment, for example, or maybe even on your physical environment. So think about us as being any Windows desktop, not just Citrix, but we're going to specifically show you how we solve a lot of things for Citrix in here today. So image sprawl is a real problem. So now when you patch the OS, now you've got to think about your applications. Now you've got to worry about which application works with which application, which image needs to roll out, and all that. That goes away when you deliver applications with FlexApp dynamically, and you just attach them to groups of users, and they look and they act as if they're natively installed. So you have all these dynamic containers. You package them up into VHDXs very easily, I might add. We have an automated packaging console. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. And then the desktops are assembled on the fly. Basically, from your Citrix technology, you have a base desktop. Maybe you put a few base images, base applications in there, such as Microsoft Office. but then all your other apps get attached on a departmental level or even a user level, and they can even be launched on demand. So we innovated on demand in this industry, and so that means an application's not attached unless it's clicked on. So you end up with a very clean base image, which you can manage through PVS or MCS, and you can also do that through the Citrix app layering product. Use your patches on your base images and your apps on there, and then you dynamically add your other FlexApp applications. So that's where we fit in there. To talk a little bit more about Windows rot, and that is a traditional software installation will rot a Windows OS over time. Install an application, uninstall an application. Some things get left behind, intentionally and unintentionally. Services get left behind even sometimes. Registry keys get left behind sometimes. Intentionally, sometimes they leave some user data behind in case you later reinstall that application, user data that should be in the profile, by the way, and treated separately. But that type of traditional software installation tattoos the base image, tattoos the OS. Forevermore, there's going to be something left behind in that OS for the most part, even when you uninstall an application. This is the same reason why your own laptop at home starts to run slow after a couple of years, or a year even, is because this process of installing, uninstalling, all these ghost processes still possibly happening on that desktop is a key reason for Windows rot, and where the digital experience, the digital employee experience, suffers over time just because of that alone. FlexApps are different. Look over on the right-hand side. While a FlexApp looks like the files, the registry keys, and everything needed to make that app work in the native location, it looks like they're there. They're not. A filter driver makes them look like they're there. That way the application can be turned on and turned off. So they appear all over the OS where they need to be, high compatibility rating because of that, right? And then when you want that application to disappear, it's literally switched off. The filter driver makes it disappear because it was never really installed there. You'll see that in the demo in a moment. So that's the difference in what happens and the huge benefit that you get when you deliver applications with FlexApp. Now to talk about what people might think is the elephant in the room is Liquidware going to talk about Citrix App Layering or Microsoft's MSIX App Attach, because they tout some of those use cases. While that's true, Citrix App Layering, many of our customers and joint customers have found that it's really great for OS layers if you want to use it instead of PVS or MCS, but it might not necessarily be everything for individual apps. In other words, Citrix App Layering has a flexible module being able to do elastic apps, package once and use it with everything, but they can't do that with every type of app. Their core technology will work across the board, but if you want every app to be elastic and dynamic, that's where we've always focused. So that's the difference in Citrix App Layering, is that FlexApp is always like an elastic dynamic app, and it's separate from the base image. You package it once, and it'll work across your Citrix environment, any OS, even physical desktops. You don't have to repackage it. So it's a different technology that we're using to make your applications more dynamic. And we have many joint Citrix customers using it daily. We're Citrix Ready verified. So we've gone through all of the certifications in that area, the verifications, I should say, in that area. So why not MSIX or MSIX App Attach? Well, it may surprise you, but FlexApp supports MSIX, the MSIX technology, and we can also attach those types of apps. The difference is that MSIX has a low compatibility rating of only 30 to 40% of your apps, of your organization's apps, are going to be fully compatible with MSIX. That's because only a certain number of them were built as an MSIX package to start with from the vendor, and then a small number of your current traditional apps might be able to be converted. It gets more complicated when you get into services and drivers and a few things like that, and that's part of the reason why the compatibility rating starts to drop to 30 to 40%. That's not me saying that. That's the foremost experts in the field for MSIX. They will tell you that compatibility rating, yeah, you can use some tools out there that will get that a little higher, but you are really going through tons of recipes to do that, to try to get that higher. While FlexApp supports the MSIX format, we can make that a container as well, and we can attach that. And then we can also do MSI executables, homegrown, and get you compatible with 90 to 100% of your organization's apps. I say that because we've had some organizations where we're delivering 100% of their apps. Others might be in the 90 to something percent range, and then they put some of those in the base image, or maybe they do use MSIX natively or AppV, because AppV is going to be not end of life now. They kicked that can down the road a little further. So if you've got isolated use cases, you're good for that for at least a couple of years, even with AppV, and those isolated use cases are a little fewer than ever. So Liquidware has led with innovations to market, and I'll recap those on the coming screen. And tell you about how we've led in certain areas, and it's the very high compatibility rating that you get with our technology. Let me deliver this slide, and Jake will check in, see if there's any questions after this slide. But FlexApp has innovated, and so the technology we developed ourselves in-house has been around since 2012, I think, is when we shipped. 2011, we had a beta version, but 2012 is a deliverable product. And we invented apps on demand. I think 2017, click to layer is our apps on demand. If that shortcut's not clicked on, it is not mounted. So that's a really interesting thing, because it's not provided down to every single desktop. You can actually use the Microsoft corporate store to deliver your apps through Microsoft Intune, deliver them as a click to layer, and then all your users can see all available apps under there and shop for their apps themselves. So it can be self-service and on demand in that way. Applications truly do run anywhere, and we innovated that too. And I mean anywhere. There's another vendor out there using that term, but we even run offline. So we're the only one to run fully offline without a heavy agent on the endpoint, all VDI, all DAS, all Windows desktops, and especially great fit for Citrix desktops. We always keep the focus on dynamic applications. We don't patch the OS. So you're still going to be doing OS management through your best practices. And then we focus on the apps, keeping them dynamic, or some may say elastic. Apps are attached, and they're not really layered into a layer cake. So in that way, they can be attached to other desktops. They can be attached to groups. They're not embedded in the OS, and they're not tied to a specific OS. Here's a big one. So if you're an enterprise and you're thinking, yeah, but I have hundreds of apps or thousands of apps, we have fully automated app packaging. And this makes it to where we have several drone machines that will be packaging these apps up over the weekend. You're just pointing them to where all the setup files are. And we even work with silent switches. So if you've done that with SCCM software deployment, we have a similar method for silent switches to be able to package those up into Flex apps. You come back, you start this on a Friday, you come back on a Monday, and you can have dozens, if not hundreds of apps that are ready to open, close, and for testing to roll out to your POC environment, and then take those live as soon as you're ready. So fully automated packaging is a big deal. It's not a process where you do a little bit, you jump back in, you have to do a little bit more, you let it do its thing. No, it is end to end. Start it, come back later, and it's finished. And the ones that may not have successfully finished doesn't mean they can't be FlexApp. We may have a recipe for 2 or 3 of those and get your compatibility rating even higher. When you package up an app, say you've got a handful to 20 apps, you wouldn't have to use the automated packaging. Use our packaging console, and you go through that process, and it's as easy. Johnny will show you this on today's demo, I believe. It's as easy as installing an app one time. It is like real time. There's not a lot added to that. So we're not talking about making a 5-minute install process, a 35-minute install process like you've seen from other technologies in the market. We're talking about if it takes 5 minutes to install an app, that's about the same amount of time it takes us to package an app. You'll see how fast it is, truly fast packaging. FlexApp One, and this is a really easy way to integrate with Citrix, because we already support Microsoft Intune. You can deploy a FlexApp One application container without having anything Liquidware in your environment. And you can deploy it out through Microsoft Intune today, and we're going to have even enhanced integration with Citrix that we're working on soon as well. So stay tuned about that. And then we just added about 2 weeks ago OAuth integration. So if you're in a compliance-laden industry such as healthcare, finance, or the government, and you need to make your apps OAuth compatible or Zero Trust compatible, you can do that through OAuth, and we already interface with Microsoft Entra ID to do that. So that's an option. That means when your user tries to open that app, they authenticate, and it's like I said, it interfaces directly with Entra ID, so you've got two-factor options in there and everything else that you might need to make that Zero Trust. And you can do that with any app. That means not having to outsource it to people to make it a Zero Trust application. You can do that just by using FlexApp.
So for those that are not aware, Microsoft Entra ID is what used to be Azure AD. So that's just the nomenclature across that when Microsoft changed the name. But yes.
Yep. Thanks, Johnny. Do we have any questions, Jack?
We do have a couple, actually. A question from Bill is just asking if you could touch on how it differs, so how FlexApp differs from VMware app volumes.
Oh, good question.
So primarily, FlexApp differs from app volumes because app volumes is VMDK centric, right? You have to run VMware's hypervisor to get app volumes to attach to other things like that. FlexApp, since it's VHDX centric, those VHDXs can mount to physical laptops. They can mount to VMware-based machines, Citrix-based machines. I don't care if it's running on Zen Server or Hyper-V or whatever it is at the end of the day. We're truly 100% application portable so that you can literally have that package once scenario, then desktop support can consume it, Citrix environments can consume it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's no more duplication or replication of the same efforts across the teams that exist.
You end up, we're alliance partners with VMware, so they have a good technology, and people that are VMware customers or Horizon customers might want to look at that. Maybe they've got access to it, right? But there's some really big differences. The end product's the same. The end goal is the same, is to lighten your load on base image management and make apps dynamic, right? But their architecture is a little different. So they have a man in the middle that their management console has to be up and running all the time, has to be highly available. So you have a cost of load balancers that have to be in that architecture, by the way. You have to have SQL servers in that architecture, by the way. And you need dedicated, more likely you need dedicated RDS servers to do their app on demand. Yep. So there's some big differences, but the end goal is the same. And from all indications that they're a good technology, I would assert some of the things on the screen that you've seen be imitated in the market that we innovated, and even all the way through the latest innovations down there of OAuth. So if you want to look to the leader and look for a Citrix ready compatible vendor, if you only need this type of functionality, we're an easy call to make, because if you're a Citrix customer, you wouldn't have to call VMware in that case.
Brilliant.
Then the spice of this finger pointing conversation, because I have a Citrix and I have a VMware, and everyone says it's everyone else's fault.
Just one other question here that I think is worth just asking now. So this is from Chris. Is there a recommended sort of maximum number of Flex apps you should run on an endpoint? Do you sort of hit limits or anything like that?
Yeah, so in formality, it's the upper limit is the amount of VHDXs that can be mounted to the operating system. So there's many ways to deliver the packages to the operating system. I can do machine boot layers. I can do login layers. I can do just-in-time delivery with click to layer. So you can kind of compile it across and determine, the when the application lands on the operating system, and that basically smooths out any of those performance hits that you would potentially ever hit in your worlds. So it's a compilation across there. Right now, I think the Microsoft upward limitation is 2048. Rarely
hopefully enough
get to that height. Yeah. So it comes down to that. If you ever get to that point where you have that many application packages mounted to the operating system, please send me a screenshot, because I would like to see that.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Just one other whilst we're just looking at some questions. A question here from Robert was, when you're actually creating a FlexApp package, how does it handle things like prerequisite software? So, for example, sort of run times, that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's a good question. Johnny's going to show the packaging in a demo here in a moment. So we can.
Traditionally,
Thank you.
from the perspective of runtimes and those types of things, we recommend putting those on the endpoints so that when we actually package the application, all we are doing is landing the application, right? It just makes it easier and smoother in the world.
And if you're talking also, maybe you also be, Robert, hinting at applications that rely on other applications, not just dependencies, but maybe it's a plugin, right, that needs another application to run. We're very good at that. You don't have an order of operations with FlexApp that you might have with other technologies out there. It's due to the fact that we've got a technology. We don't do full isolation, but we do micro isolation. So we don't have to package up apps that need to go together. You don't have to do those at the same time. They can be packaged independently and still work. And if they've got a conflicting DLL or something, we resolve that through the micro isolation. So it makes your whole science of packaging and delivering apps easier.
Awesome, thank you.
Great questions. Johnny,
I saw a question about Office 365. We have a recipe on our website. I don't know if you want to paste out the questions, Jake. It's up to your discretion. I saw that one in there too.
We do have a recipe for that, and we can do Office 365. I will say if an app like Office is used by all your users, which a lot of times that one in particular, it's a large app. It also has patches that sometimes come out in the same cadence almost as the OS patches. That's a good candidate that you might want to think about your application strategy. Do you want to just put that in a base image and patch it as you go? That could be the easier path to do that. And we'll work with you on your list of apps and make some suggestions in those areas. Just because you can make it work with FlexApp, should you? And just because you can convert it to MSIX, should you? You've got those questions in mind, and we've been down that road with several customers. But yes, we can do it. And we also would probably recommend you put it in your base image for your users in that case. Johnny, you are going to show an app package, right? So I can.
Definitely, yes.
Yep. So this is a look at the packaging console and the list, and he'll show that. And then this is the form you fill out, and then you hit go, and he'll show that. So you'll see that in a moment. The OAuth support, I'll touch on it just a little bit more, is when a user opens up an app where OAuth has been integrated in there through Azure Active Directory, now called Entra ID or Entra ID, they'll get their authentication, and then they'll get this pop-up, and it's pretty cool that you'll even get a UI indication that you're logged in successful. And this one's about one of the world's simplest apps, Notepad++, that we're demonstrating it, but it works with any Windows app, and it ensures that verified access, especially if you have compliance laden industries that you work for. Our FlexApp packaging automation, as I mentioned before, goes beyond what you've ever seen from any other vendor out there, I believe, and that is that we have, in this case, you put all your applications that you're ready to package on a file share. All those setup files would be out there in a repository that you would point to. You have several machines acting as what I call drones, but are capture machines. They're self-resetting, so they package up an app, they roll back, so they're clean. They package up an app, they roll back because they're clean, and then they will put that into the file share or the cloud area that you've pointed to, and they make our management console aware that those apps are ready and done and can be rolled out into probably POC first and then production. You always want to test an app, of course, and it's as simple as that once you get it set up and have it off and running. And we've had as I said, enterprises that have used this with dozens and hundreds of apps, if not over 1,000 apps that they use this process for. So to be clear, the demonstration you'll see is on the manual packaging today, but that's the automated packaging one. FlexApp One is, I'd like to talk a little bit more about this because we have some really good area here where it's easy traction with Citrix to be able to try an application. You can roll out a FlexApp One self-contained format. You can do that through Microsoft Intune. You just assign a group to be able to deploy that to, and you can deploy it. And all you need is a sample FlexApp One package to be able to do this. You don't need a bunch of architecture. To my point earlier about others in the market requiring tons of architecture, all you need is a FlexApp One package, and you can test it. You'll see how easy those are to use in a moment. FlexApp Ones also have the advantage that you can deploy them by any means necessary, and users can have access to them even on offline laptops. So if you need to get an application out and get it out quick, of course, we can do that through the Citrix environment, but you can also deploy those straight to laptops so they can have use of those applications from anywhere on the world, even disconnected, offline, on a plane, in the desert, doesn't matter. Your app's going to work in that way, and it's still not going to taint the base image. And we do all this without a heavy agent on the endpoint. And you hear me say heavy agent. We have a filter driver that goes on the endpoint. That's it. If the user has admin privileges, they can even okay that and go off. If they don't have admin privileges, you get the filter driver on the endpoint as an admin through a variety of ways, and then they can run any other FlexApp One package. So you can deploy these packages by any means. Look at the third bullet there: Microsoft Intune, Avanti DSM, a file share, and this big asterisk, because as I said earlier, please stay tuned from news from Liquidware within the next month, and we'll tell you what we've worked on to be able to do this even easier with Citrix environments. Some exciting things there that we're moving forward, but it doesn't really, in reality, get much easier than deploying an app through Intune. And so what we have today is great technology, and you'll be able to keep using the same package no matter how you deploy it. So with Intune, it's as simple as filling out an assignment group and going back to the path of your FlexApp and putting in a couple of commands, and then the app will go out to the endpoint that way. So that's a quick look at that, or any software deployment solution or tool. We're going to show at least a two-part demo today, and this first part will be how you can even use, how these applications are so dynamic you can even use them on a laptop offline. But FlexApp Ones can be easily deployed through Citrix and go offline. So without further ado, I'm going to show you even on my personal laptop how FlexApp One works. And I'm going to, by the end of this webinar, we're going to show you how you can grab some of these FlexApp packages yourself, and you can test them here in the next few minutes by double-clicking on them. I've got a repository here I've already put on my machine of several FlexApp Ones. Maybe I was told by my admin, here's all the FlexApp Ones out here, put any in your folder that you want to. That's any means necessary. So you see I've got, about 10 or so applications out here, and when I double-click on them, for the first time ever, and I'm an admin of this machine, so you'll see a pop-up, and you'll see, FlexApp's not running on here, so it's going to put that little filter driver there. Now, that only happens one time if you're an admin, and then the rest of the time you've already got the filter driver on there, so it will run on there. And you can also get that service out there by any means necessary as an admin. But as you see, because I double-clicked on that app, it immediately launches. It works as if it is installed in the environment. It's actually on a VHDX, and the filter driver is making it look like it's installed. I'm able to jump in here, and because all my application data is always saved into my profile, Citrix user profile, maybe if you're on the Citrix environment, or in this case, a local profile, even that stuff is in there. I can pick up right where I left off with this app. Camtasia is a difficult one for some organizations to virtualize that type of an app, because it does interact with sound drivers and services and plugins, but you see it ran just like it's native. Adobe Creative Suite is a big creative suite, and just like that, I launched and attached the entire Creative Suite. Now all these things are going to show up under my Start menu, and now I'm going to run the script that's going to double-click on all of them. That's all the script's doing, is it's opening all those apps and it's putting them where they were intended to be under the Start menu when they were packaged up. So I'm going to show you that there's a few things in here. The full Adobe Creative Suite is in here. Photoshop and Illustrator and everything else is in there. If you ever run Photoshop, you know how hard it is. And it's running as if it's natively installed. And it's not tainted the base image at all. And I'll prove that to you in just a little bit. But all those other apps are in there. Inkscape's another one that's like a Photoshop type program or Paint program, and I'm launching it now. And I'm going to go back out here and show you how natively installed these look, not only to other apps, but they look this way to the OS itself. They look like they're actually in here. So that's where you get a very high compatibility rating. You note that we're running in here in add remove programs. They're even listed here. Windows thinks they're installed. That's how natively they look. So the workflow for a user is no different. There's no app, there's no portal, it's under the start menu. It's so easy to find these apps that way. And now that I've showed you that they're in the add remove area, we're going to go over here and look. You remember when I said an application, when it installs things, it goes all over the OS. It trashes the OS basically because they rarely cleanly uninstall. You see Adobe's got a folder up there that has hundreds of files in it. TechSmith, Camtasia has a folder in here, has hundreds if not thousands of files in here. Look at this. They look like they're there, but they're not there. I'm going to prove that to you right here. You know that they're in the Adobe folder here, Adobe. Now, if I go over here and I manually stop FlexApp, and you can do that, stop it, look at the Adobe file, it'll disappear. It's gone. It was never there. It never tainted the base image. It's on like a light switch. It's off like a light switch. And that OS is going to run just as good as the day that it was born, the day it was designed, the day it was last patched, because we did not taint or tattoo the OS. So that's the power of not just FlexApp One. That's how FlexApp works in general. It's on or it's off, and it doesn't taint the base image. And that same package that you saw is flexible enough to run in your physical environment, your Citrix CVAD environment, your DAS environment. It will work with Windows 11. It will work with Server 22. It'll work with the older server versions. It'll work with Windows 10. You don't have to repackage it. So huge differences when you look at us and different technologies there. And Johnny, let's share Johnny's screen now, or give him sharing rights. I'll stop sharing mine for now, but Johnny's going to show you a more Citrix-centric demo.
You can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
All right. So in the traditional sense of applications, we're going to kind of walk through this demo to see what happens with traditionally installed applications that need upgrades and updates versus what FlexApp and FlexApp One can do, right? So in this instance, I have multiple Citrix non-persistent machines here. I have one that is running a traditional app in this configuration, no profile Unity, no FlexApp. When I log in this example, we're going to walk through the process here of me firing up the Notepad++ that exists here. So the Notepad++ is locally installed here, and I'm running quite a bit of out-of-date version, right? So I'm running the 8.5.3 version, while the most current version is 8.6. So I have another machine just as well that is running a completely different version of Notepad++. And let's log in and let's fire it up and let's see what we have here. There we go. So if I fire up this version of Notepad++, I'm running a 8.5.6 version as opposed to the 8.6 version, which is the most current one. So if I was running a Citrix environment, I needed to fire up my gold image in MCS, update Notepad++ on my various machines and repump those out, or if I have to copy my PVSV disk and make it read-write mode and update them as that it goes, right? So a lot of image sprawl, a lot of manual work that needs to exist to make this type of information and updates happen. So I even have a machine that is running a FlexApp and FlexApp One client, and you'll actually see that the current version of Notepad++ on here I technically have is out of date as well. So let's log in and you'll see what the look and feel looks like. This is our splash screen that is processing our config that tells it to go out and mount FlexApp packages simultaneously. And you'll see that it mounts an out-of-date Notepad++ intentionally for this particular demo. Give it a second while it trickles in the icon, and there we go. Unless I unassigned it for myself, which would be very interesting. I might have unassigned it for myself because it is not popping up here. But in essence, what happens is if I needed to upgrade Notepad++, update Notepad++, it was a manual process that existed in the traditional application sense. So if I was interested in using FlexApp, to actually integrate and upgrade my Notepad++. I'm going to log off of all these machines so I can kill out all these windows here. Just make my workspace cleaner. We'll walk through that process of actually ingesting and building a FlexApp package. So I have a FlexApp packaging console here. This is where we do package authoring. And in here, I'm actually going to take the 8.6 version in Notepad++. And what we're going to do is package a brand new package, and then we're going to assign it to ourselves. So anywhere that we're running a Profile Unity and FlexApp client, we have the upgraded version in Notepad++, and we'll show how easy it is. So Notepad++, fill out this form, give it a name. I can put the 8.6 version in here. And I'm going to just leave everything else by default. So it's going to output my VHDX into this location. My FlexApp packaging console is off the domain, so I'm not actually saving it out to a network share. And then I'm going to leave it the default size of 20 gigs because the bottom section is checked as expandable. When it's set as expandable, it is then provisioned. So we're only on the hook for what we actually consume, regardless, not the necessarily 20 gigs that the application is set to. So I'm going to hit the create button here. You'll actually see that in my C drive location where I told it to save the package, it created me a VHDX, and it's making that VHDX ready for me so that when I'm ready to package, I'm ready to package. So I'm going to click the start here, and it's going to set that VHDX in record mode, and it's going to say I am ready to install my application because it is recording the contents of the installer. So all I really need to do here is run through my normal installation of the package, and whatever I set here is what lands inside of the package. At this point in time, I can choose to run the application if I wanted to. We fully expect it just shows up as Notepad++ with the release notes that they code by default. And if I were to do an about, you'll see that I'm running the 8.6 version here. So I'm going to exit this application, and then I'm going to hit the finish here because I'm fully good with what we packaged and I want to be able to deploy it. Simultaneously, at the same time, when you filled out that form, if you want to conquer, two birds with one stone, check the box that says create me a FlexApp One. Then you'll have traditional FlexApp for your environment. Then you can give the FlexApp One to the requisite team so that they can drop it out with Microsoft Intune, and you're good to go on the physical side of the world as well. So I'm going to save that here. You'll see that in my C drive location now, I have 3 files. I have an XML file, which is the metadata. It basically goes in and says, what do we do with this VHDX, including all of the shortcut creations and those types of information that needs to happen. This is just an administrative icon to make the Profile Unity console look pretty when actually import it into our inventory. But for all intents and purposes, I can copy this FlexApp package out to my share so that I can ingest it into my inventory so I can deploy it to my Citrix machines that needed upgrades that are using the Profile Unity and FlexApp client. By default, if I left it on the C drive of this machine, those machines can't reach me. So it, null and void, there's nothing that can logistically happen with that package. So this is just an extra step that happens where I need to import it into my inventory because my packaging console is off the domain. So I'll make the nice little import button here and just point at my share. I'm going to refresh my share, and you're going to see the one with the timestamp of today. And then I'm going to double click my XML file because it's going to read the metadata and know that I have a brand new application with the 8.6 tag that I put on the version there. So now that it's in my inventory, all I really need to do here is just assign my application. So Profile Unity has a full-featured filter engine, so I can chain filters together, or I can just have one filter like a machine group check or a user group check or any of those pieces. But if I wanted to chain it together and say the application's only available at this time of day, user must belong to this group, and then the machine must come in with the name that starts with, I can chain those conditions together. So if everything reads true, you get the application. And if any of those pieces read false, you don't get the application. So assigning the rules is very easy here. I'm going to take the 8.6 version of the package, and I'm going to hit save. And I'm actually going to remove my other one because I don't want the old version. I'm going to make sure that 8.6 version is sent. And I'm going to update my config here. And once I update my config, I do have to deploy my config so that everything is good. I also have an example that walks through a Server 2019 instance as well, and we're actually going to publish Notepad++ as a singular application as opposed to launching it from a desktop world. So I'm actually going to check the box in that instance as a click to layer, and you'll actually see the differences between a login layer versus a click to layer and the like. So I'm going to deploy this config as well, and then we're good. So over here, if I come back out to my image 3 machine that has the full Profile Unity and FlexApp client, we'll log back in, and then you'll see our splash screen processing our brand new updated config. And at the end of this, we should get a Notepad++ application as well. There's our Notepad++. There's also various other applications that are coming through as FlexApps. We'll actually launch all of the applications to show you what happens and who's doing what to who. But if I do an about, I fully expect it to be the 8.6 version. I can run things like the mremote application and also the 7-zip application and all of those bits and pieces here. And these applications, you can actually see them as running as FlexApps because I can actually run disk management as my administrator. And we can see those various VHDXs that were mounted to the operating system. So you'll see that the 7-zip and the mremote and the Notepad++ are all here. So these are mounted VHDXs off of a network share into the operating system on this machine. And just to prove that our services and our filter drivers and everything is behaving as it should, you'll see those various directories exist for those applications when I go inside of here. And also when Jason talks about Windows rot and the like, if I wanted to, which, we traditionally do this for dramatic purposes and demos, I can stop my service, and what will happen is all of these directories will disappear. I do have to run my services console as my administrator to be able to stop the service. So bear with me 1 second. And then that should fire up. I go into the Liquidware section, and I'm going to stop the container service. You'll see all those applications just kind of quit out. And then you'll see in here that C program file, 7-zip, and mremote, and all those guys disappeared off of the face of the earth, right? Because we went in and we basically killed the service. It is still in the background.
Yeah, obviously, nobody would do that. But if you rolled back or removed the app, it would automatically do that at the next.
Yep. And then there's one last bit and piece. We're talking about click-to-layer applications that land onto like the server VDA. Instead of giving a user a full desktop, I can give them the click-to-layer experience of the applications if you want to do that type of deployment because you don't necessarily want to give them a desktop. So if I come back into the package that we just created today during the demo, I'm actually going to grab this path, copy as path. And then we actually have a configuration on our client that allows you to do click to layer on RDSH applications in Horizon or seamless application publishing that occurs in Citrix through that. All I really need to do here is replace my value on the command line argument. You'll see that since this package is not actually on the operating system, I'm actually pointing at my executable that comes with the client, and we're actually invoking it and say, call our executable with the parameter to reach out and grab the application so that everyone is good. So I'm going to commit here. You'll see that. Then this is running in an on-prem studio, but as we said before, we work with Citrix DAS. It's however you like to actually publish your applications. So now if I pop over to application land, or actually we can even show more dramatic stuff here. Let me log into the RDSH server that this is coming off of, the server VDA. And once again, if we were to run our disk management, we have a whole bunch of new applications on here because everything on this client is set as click to layer. So if the user were to come out as a normal generic non-privileged user and launch these applications, you'll see that I am calling my executable with the parameter that says go fetch me the application, because we're doing a just-in-time click-to-layer type of fashion here. You'll see down here, here's my click-to-layer dialog box. There's also, if you don't want to see that dialog box in this server VDA type of scenario, you can deliver the applications on machine boot. And then all you're really doing is you're publishing the application as is, because the package already landed on the operating system. Same thing with the M remote. Same thing with the Notepad++. I can fire them all. All the application frames will pop up in my worlds, and all the applications are consumable and usable. So now if I pop back over to the RDSH guy that I was looking at here, you'll see those same 3 FlexApp packages mounted to this. We mount once per operating system, and based on the filters that we can set, if you are a user that aren't supposed to get 7-zip, even though it's mounted to the OS, it's hidden from you because you didn't fit the filter of and check the box as true as you're supposed to see those applications. But being that sense, we're mounted there. We only need to mount once, and you're off and you're good to go. Anything to add, Jason, on the demo?
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of good questions come in, and because I caught up on some of those, I'll jump in on these, Jake, because there's one or two I wanted Johnny to address. Because I'm the marketing guy. I'm a technical marketing guy, but I've never deployed anything but my own lab. That's why I have smart people on like Johnny. Daniel said, so far this is similar to app creation. Is there a cleanup after? Which I said, we do rollbacks. But he said, is there a fine tune allowed afterwards, like initiating .NET DLLs and so on? And then he clarified. Hold on before you answer. He said, I'm talking about my screen jump. He's talking about .NET. My screen jumped. I don't know what happened to it now. But is that enough to go on, Johnny?
So the cleanup afterwards. So we can initiate the cleanup as you roll a snapshot back, so that we always have a clean workspace to provision the next application or others. Or we also offer system restore, assuming the FlexApp packaging console runs on an operating system has system restore, aka Windows 10 or Windows 11, right? In that fashion, yes, that is the cleanup that you would have so that you're ready for the next application. Hopefully that answers your question.
And I think when things are leveraged like .NET and all that, you need those prerequisites in. We covered that earlier, right? So you need those in the base as part of what you're doing. Anything during the package capture process, you can capture more than one application at a time, right? So anything that's captured during that will stick, including prerequisites. But maybe a case, depending on your use case, like I said, for application strategy, you talk about getting advice from.
In the demo we just showed, they are mounted from the share. So if you're using traditional FlexApp, classic FlexApp, whatever you like to call, those are either mounted from network shares, they're mounted from cloud object storage in Azure, AWS, or GCP, and then you have them there. There's a box that you can check on the 6.8.6 release that allows it to lazy load the full FlexApp package and copy it down to the endpoint. And you can take that one offline. Otherwise, the other offline means is FlexApp One. FlexApp One, we actually convert it from VHDX to containerize copies of EXEs that include the service if it's not installed. And that's where Jason showed you the demo where you got a pop-up that says you don't have a service. Would you like to install it? And then when you have that one there, since you have the whole entire EXE, you have an offline copy of it as we talk about pop on a train, jump on a plane, go be in the middle of the desert, or go sit at a black site, whatever you got in your world, you can make it happen.
Brian Pendleton said, any plans for DAS native app library support instead of manual steps just shown for server VDA?
Very good question. We may have to answer that one offline because we need to talk about what exactly is happening. There is some stuff that's cooking in the background between us and Citrix to do stuff as well, but there will be stuff up there.
And then John Flatbush, that's on our Fed team, by the way, he's on, but he was reminding people you can modify applications after the initial capture too. So you go back in the packaging console and you can open them back up and you can add things that you may have forgotten.
There were other questions that were asked about, can the user update their own application? That kind of wraps around that. The applications are read-only, so you have to make updates to the application. So it just doesn't continually allow users to update the application. Complex applications like Visual Studio and AutoCAD, yes, we most definitely can support those. Those are very easy. Just we have recipes for a lot of those that pop up in the world to make that happen. Daniel kind of clarified, talked about running something like an engine.
Mm-hmm.
We don't run an automated engine, unfortunately, to do the types of functions that it's expecting.
Thanks for the comment, Mike. He says, love it. Make VDI life easy. Yes, it does, largely.
Brian asked about mounting when the machine powers on. We can build configs that allow mounting on machine boot. As we talked about the compilation, some applications you may want to mount on machine boot. Some applications you may want to mount at login because it could be specialized to a department. And then some applications that are, used at certain specific times can be click to layer.
Yep.
You can run all three fashions of it as you deem fit in your world. There's nothing that says I need to run A versus B versus C.
Hey, Robert was saying any performance considerations when planning CIFs, et cetera. I think there's a way we can, if you choose robust storage, right, you can help steer IOPS. Is that right, Johnny?
Yes, the scale factor, when you talk about network shares, all of it is kind of predicated on how scalable that share is. Windows-based file shares, meaning shares that come off of server 2022 or 2019 or 2016, you actually have less scalability than if it was running off of a NetApp or an Isilon and the like. But logistically, since these are read-only mounts, it's fairly scalable just out of the box in general. Yes.
Brian is asking can we do like isolated where two non-compatible versions can run side by side? The answer to that is we are so native, we look so native and have that compatibility for such native approach that if the answer is no, if these two apps react in a normal Windows environment in such and such way, they're going to do the same thing with FlexApp. In that case, we would steer you back over to App V, which is, like I said, it's been extended even through 2026 now, I believe, for a couple of the isolated use cases that might still be around. I've got a couple of things I want to share out on my screen so I can show you how you can try FlexApp One, a FlexApp One package. Like you can literally download it and open it up in the next couple of minutes here. Let me choose the window to go back to my slide deck. And we got a landing page that it's as easy to try FlexApp One as when you're drinking a cup of coffee. By the time you've enjoyed that cup of coffee, I guarantee you've already opened and closed the app and already tried it out. And we've got a handful of apps that are available out there that way. We've got Pinball, we've got Slack, Pinball from like Windows 95 just for fun. It's nothing special we're doing there for isolation to make that work in a modern environment. It works. You just have to know where the package is to be able to package. So we've got that out there. We've got Slack, we've got Teams out there, and there's a photo. You may see Inkscape, but a couple others out there like that. And I'm going to put, there's a URL here now, and you can take note of that URL. But I'm also going to put it in the window here shortly. If you have any questions that are further to this, we can keep taking them here. Stephanie, do you have a closing slide or?
No, I mean, I was just going to put my thank you slide back up.
Yep. If you want to put your thank you slide up there while we look at the final questions.
Sure.
I'll put a link in here so you can download a FlexApp package and try it today.
And as we always say, CUGC was for the users. You guys are the users. So
Yep.
Whatever stage that CUGC evolves into, with Citrix taking it back for the management side, fight for it. If you don't like it, tell them,
Yeah, I know they want your feedback. I know from speaking to several of them. I've put that URL in there in your window, so you can click on that. We ask for only one little thing. Give us a legitimate email just so we can reach out and say thank you. And then you're into the page that has 8 to 10 different packages on it. Download them, and if you're on a laptop, double click on it, and it's going to launch just like you did in my demo today. And you're running a FlexApp package. There's no architecture. It shows you the simplicity of it. You're running a FlexApp One package in that case. It's got the embedded driver on it. The advanced features, we have several advanced features that go well beyond the demos that we showed today. Role-based access. We can get in when coupled up with our user environment management, and we can roll out registry keys to that same group. We can do fix-ups. We can do whitelist. We can do blacklist. You may have access to all those sort of things if you're using some Citrix tools anyway. The thing is that FlexApp One is the most powerful thing to tell you about today, and to see if it could help in your environment. I put a note in here too that you can email me directly if you want us to showcase this to your team, to do a one-on-one with your group. We'll do that over the web. Just ping me at jason.smith@liquidware.com.
There was someone that asked a question kind of a bit ago. Mohammed talks about legacy applications and requirements for applications. As long as the application can run on the operating system, that's the requirement. Legacy applications, I can't do the magic of, something that's expecting .NET 1 on a modern day operating system. I can't spoof that and trick that as a type of function. There was also a question that when I scrolled back up from David Brown talking about, does it work with app masking and FSL? Yes, most definitely. We do work with app masking and FS logics if you already have those in the environment. We do offer our own means of being another profile container as well as doing application cloaking, if you would like. And I understand that you can't transition overnight from previous to whatever today is, right? Because it could take time. There could be change controls, all that fun stuff that needs to pop up in the world. But most definitely there is a means to integrate together or to flip over when you determine and deem fit.
Great. Jake, did you see anything we missed?
No, you've pretty much covered everything. Thank you. It's been a great session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you guys do. And again, thanks to the CUGC organization and Engage and Stephanie especially. I think we all have met and have come to really enjoy being around Stephanie in the community, and we hope to see her continue in some way or another. And we really appreciate everything she's even personally done, the sacrifices that I know she's made by traveling and when she has a family at home and everything else, like a lot of us. But she's really put in beyond her expectations for the community, I know, personally.
Oh, thanks, Jason. It's been really great. I've had a blast working with you guys. And again, I do hope to see all of my same community people in the same EUC space wherever we wind up. So hopefully we'll do something else soon.
Power of the community. Power of the community.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And thanks again to Liquidware. We couldn't have done anything with CUGC without you guys. So really appreciate all your help over the years so much.
Thank you. Thanks to all the attendees too. And Jake, appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks,
everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And
You as well.
we'll see you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.